Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to call the March 18th meeting of the Common Council to order. I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Alderpersons Turner.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
Grisham. Here. Grobe. Here. Haas.
Here.
Halverson.
Here.
Keen. Here. Novak. Here. Noling. Here. Rote.
Here.
10 present.
We have a quorum. Please rise if you are able and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led this evening by Alderman Turner. Thank you. We're going to move to Part D of the agendas. We have 2 items for public hearing this evening, and I will ask the clerk to read out public hearing number 1.
Conditional use permit for site landscaping and architectural design for Academy of Excellence, a proposed school use at 6021 West Lincoln Avenue and 2307-53 South 60th Street.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to staff. See, I think your mic's on, Steve. Mm-mm.
Blame Kale, he switched them out.
I was doing a favor.
All right.
Thanks. So our first public hearing is for a conditional use for on property that is St. Rita's School. Academy of Excellence is a private, nonprofit Catholic school that is interested in locating here. In fact, they're interested in purchasing the St. Rita's school building, which is in the foreground of the picture here at 60th and Lincoln Avenue. This would be a proposed high school, and schools are required to go through a conditional use process, which also involves site landscaping architectural review, as well as a public hearing before the city's council. The property is zone C2 commercial. The hours of operation are pretty standard for schools, Monday through Friday, from 6:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. The occasional after-school events, of course, and then about 125 students max. They do have another school in Milwaukee, in the city of Milwaukee, what they call their Wind Lake campus on South 19th Street in Milwaukee. They lease that from the Archdiocese, and they have about, over the past several years, about 100 students at that facility. But so similar for West Allis, they would end their lease, if this conditional use is approved, they would end their lease at that location in Milwaukee, move their high school here to West Allis, which is more centrally located for them, and they would bring with them roughly about 100 students, 25 employees, as well as classes starting in September of this year. This is the overall site plan that's been provided by the applicant. Again, all the buildings are on site right now are existing. The St. Rita's School building, which they endeavor to purchase. And then south of that, you have a church parking lot, which they would lease, and then a gymnasium building that they would also lease. The St. Rita's Church and Rectory would remain in place. Masses would still continue. They have 2 masses a week, I think one on a Friday and one on Sunday. And the kinder care property is here on the south end. There is a larger plan in the future. Should this conditional use go forward, they have a plan in the future to expand their operations to possibly purchasing the entire block, all of the properties on this block from Hayes north to Lincoln Avenue, 60th to 61st Street. That is a larger plan that would also require Archdiocese approval, and that Archdiocese approval also has to come from Rome, I believe. So that is a little bit more lengthy process, but what's before us this evening is the conditional use for them to use the existing school for their high school operations, lease the church parking lot here, and then lease the gymnasium building. They are also proposing some site improvements, including a refuse enclosure, some landscaping around one of the driveway entrance points on 60th Street, which also would be functioning for their access points to the property. Just another view, a bird's eye view of the same property we've been looking at, and primarily all of the access for student drop-off and pickup would be done via buses. About 45 buses would be utilized, be chartered for the school, dropping off students entering off of 60th Street and then exiting onto 60th Street. There is an additional access way over to 61st Street, but all busing would be taking place from 60th and then leaving onto 60th. Very few students drive, and there may be very few students' parents who drop them off. The majority of all transport to the Academy of Excellence is going to be via bus, 4 to 5 buses. And just another view of the site plan. So that shared north parking lot would be shared with that of the church, with St. Rita's Church, and it would be used for parking area for some primarily school staff, some students that do happen to drive, and then there would be a bus staging area within that for the 4 to 5 buses. That staging area is planned to be right in this area near the church, but with direct entrance to the school building. So the proximity of the staging area is very close to that of the south entrance to the building. The lower floor-by-floor analysis of the property, the St. Rita's school building is roughly about 5 floors. 3 of them are full floors, and then there's another 2 above that that are sort of partial. But the lower level has historically always been Arnold Hall, and that will remain kitchen, cafeteria area for breakfast and lunch. And then followed by, there's an open space down there for various assemblies, music, other large group classes. All meals are prepared off-site and brought to the campus here, and so they'd be catering those to the students. They're not making any food preparation on site. The first floor of the building will be classrooms, library, and main office. Second floor, more classrooms, staff offices, and a faculty break room. The 3rd through 5th floor at this time are unprogrammed and would be unused. And then the gym building is really going to be used non-tournament type of facilities, too small for that. It would be primarily just supportive of Phi Ed classes and similar activities. So the Plan Commission has looked at this last month, and they did recommend council approval. There were some conditions of approval that I'm summarizing here. Primarily all of the items in item 1 related to the site and getting some more information on the operations, requiring some ADA accessible parking, additional landscaping, bicycle racks, a floor-by-floor analysis of how they're going to use the building. Item 2 is basically just requiring code compliance. They're going to have to submit plans to show code compliance with closing up certain windows and entry points to the building where the rectory and the school meet. And then thirdly, the coordination with engineering. If there's any changes to the existing on-street parking requirements, or if they ever propose to do, off-street, on-street loading, unloading, that would require a permit through our engineering department. They are proposing to do all student loading, onboarding, and off, coming and going from the parking lot and not from Lincoln Avenue, not from any of the side streets. So all of the coming and going of people will be on site and not from side streets. That concludes my presentation. If there's any questions, I'm happy to entertain those now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scherer. Are there any questions or comments from the Common Council? I see Alderman Weigel.
Mayor Devine, yes. Steve, does this purchase change the taxable status of the property, the part that they're buying?
Not that I'm aware of. It's still a nonprofit entity, and it would remain non-taxable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council?
Mayor Devine.
Alderwoman Grisham.
Steve, how many, do you have a rough count of how many charter schools we have in West Dallas currently?
I don't have that
I know
number
there was
offhand.
there was another school that was looking to go in, I think on Lapham or Orchard.
Orchard Street. And that, I believe that deal fell through with the Holy Assumption.
Okay.
And their Holy Assumption is one of the churches that also is part of this Barnabas congregation. They're
Okay.
focusing on this site as the location for Academy of Excellence.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Seeing none, are there any members of the audience with questions on public hearing number 1? Okay, seeing none, we will close. Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Please give us your name and address for our record. I'm sorry, Ms. Kaiser, can you turn the microphone on? Push the button with the little person on it. Thanks.
Sure, thank you. My name's Kristen Kaiser, and I live at 8132 West Raymond Lane, West Dallas. For full disclosure, I'm a member of the West Dallas West Milwaukee School Board, but I'm also speaking tonight as a constituent. My words are not coming from the school board, and I'm not speaking for any other board member at this time. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to advocate on behalf of our public schools and against a proposed voucher school from operating within our district. Charter schools and voucher programs have undergone intense scrutiny regarding their financial effects on public education systems. Contrary to the assertion that these alternatives save taxpayer dollars, evidence suggests they often lead to increased educational costs. By establishing a parallel education system, these programs divert crucial funds away from public schools, complicating financial accountability. This diversion can result in more resources being directed toward various service providers rather than directly benefiting students and their classrooms. Additionally, the administrative costs associated with charter schools tend to escalate, frequently at the expense of resources intended for direct classroom use. Numerous studies have examined the financial ramifications of charter schools. A national study indicated that charter schools spend more per pupil on administration while allocating fewer resources directly to students. In Wisconsin, the public education system faces a severe funding crisis, aggravated by the diversion of state funds to private schools who accept vouchers. As state support fails to meet rising costs, public schools grapple with declining enrollment and high teacher turnover rates, increasingly relying on local tax increases to compensate for diminishing state resources. The allocation of state aid in Wisconsin is heavily skewed in favor of private voucher schools. For the 23-24 academic year, public schools received 39% less in student aid, while voucher schools benefited from a 17.8% increase per pupil. This disparity disproportionately affects our students with disabilities and those from low-income backgrounds. Although the 2023 state budget increased funding for public education, many advocates argued that it falls short of addressing decades of underfunding. I apologize, I'm trying to get through this for you guys. Under the new legislation, private voucher schools are set to receive substantial funding increases, while public schools will only see a $325 per pupil increase annually, and that amount is currently being contested in court. The Academy of Excellence, a private school in Milwaukee, has emerged as a major beneficiary of funding through Wisconsin's private school choice. That is money that is not going into our public schools. In conclusion, West Dallas does not need another voucher school within its boundaries that will use our taxpayer dollars, which would include a safety study, increased traffic to Lincoln. Who knows what kind of safety concerns or traffic concerns that's going to bring to our district. Our public school district has worked tirelessly to place ourselves into an excellent financial position, which includes a balanced budget with no material findings in our last audit and an exceptional credit score. But our budgeting can only go so far without a dramatic change in the way public schools are funded. A start to changing the system is to deny a voucher program-based school the ability to operate within our school district's boundaries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Deal, could you turn the microphone back on? There you go.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry. Hi, my name is Amy Deal. My address is 924 South 105th Street. As a citizen of West Dallas, a public school advocate, and an elected representative of the West Dallas West Milwaukee School District, I'm here today to express concerns in regards to the request for a conditional use permit by the Academy of Excellence to purchase and use all or part of the former St. Rita's property for a high school. Several months ago, the West Dallas West Milwaukee Superintendent Dr. Robinson, along with our Assistant Superintendent Aaron Norris, presented to the Common Council about school finance and how public schools are funded. I want to provide a brief review of that information. Currently, the West Dallas West Milwaukee School District receives $11,403 for each secondary student, and a voucher school receives $12,731. Public school students are funded by a split between state aid and property taxes. For the West Allis West Milwaukee School District, that currently is about a 60-40 split, meaning $6,842 comes from the state aid and $4,561 comes from property taxes for each student in our district. However, 100% of the $12,731 for a voucher student comes directly from our property taxes. In addition, since voucher schools receive more for their students than public schools do, not only does the district lose the $11,403 we would have received for a student that attends a voucher school, we lose an additional $1,328 from our state aid as an additional expense, leaving even fewer funds to educate the remaining students in our district. If the Academy of Excellence opens a high school within our district, some students who reside in our district will undoubtedly attend. Every student from our district that attends the Academy of Excellence will increase the property taxes of all taxpayers in the city of West Allis, and the increase will be higher than if those students attended school in our district, roughly $8,170 more per student. In addition, the Academy of Excellence states in their plan that they could expand enrollment from 100 students to 250 students. The majority of that increase would most likely come from the West Allis Central attendance area. The district spent considerable time and effort to right-size our district a few years ago, and those plans did not include an additional high school operating within our boundaries. This potential reduction in students attending West Allis Central could impact the ability of the district to keep operating 2 traditional high schools in our districts without additional funding. This could result in either the closure of one of our high schools or the need for another referendum in order to fund both schools. In closing, having the Academy of Excellence operating a high school within West Allis will undoubtedly negatively impact the West Allis West Milwaukee School District. However, it will also have a definite negative financial impact on all taxpayers in West Allis and very real downstream impacts that could result in the closure of another school in our district. I hope you will take into account all of these impacts when considering the request before you today. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else wish to ask questions or have comments on public hearing number 1? All right, thank you. Then we will close public hearing number 1, and I will ask the clerk to read out public hearing number 2.
Public hearing on alcohol license renewal process.
Thank you very much. Attorney Decker?
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Cale Decker. I'm the City Attorney for West Allis. This is a presentation to the council as a refresher for the license renewals that are coming up. As the council knows, on June 30th, alcohol licenses expire, and folks are supposed to start applying for renewal licenses. However, although this was at first going to be a presentation, the mayor asked this to be a public hearing. So after this presentation, the council will be able to ask questions, and so will the public. But those questions will come after the presentation. So for existing licenses, just as a refresher for everyone again, if you have an existing alcohol license, that is something that has a property interest in it. So any retail licenses that are out there, even though they expire, you are essentially obligated to renew those licenses unless a certain number of criteria are met. You can see that there's an application deadline coming up April 15th for applicants who have alcohol licenses to apply for their renewal. It's not really a hard deadline. It's just anyone who's applied by that time, the council is obligated to act on it by June 15th. And any late licenses that come in are acted upon as soon as the council is able to do so. These existing licenses are going to be presented to the council in batches. So the vast majority of licenses are just simply renewed and there's not much to it. And so you're going to see a huge list of those coming to you over the next couple weeks as they come in. And that's going to be essentially us asking the council to renew those licenses. Now, if you see someone on that list that you think needs more investigation or there's some reason that you think there shouldn't be a renewal on that particular license, please reach out to our office. We do have the ability to have a prosecutor take a look at that and investigate it further. Now, occasionally though, sometimes the council is asked to review an existing alcohol license and ask for a non-renewal of that license. And so basically the way we want to do that is staff will bring that to the council and ask you to approve an item. That non-renewal is regulated by state law. So the council cannot just simply unilaterally refuse to renew a license. It has to be something that qualifies under section 125.12 of the statutes, You can see the list of reasons as to why you might not renew a license. On the agenda tonight, just as some examples, there are 4 items listed on the agenda, 4 different licensees for non-renewal. These are allegations only, so it's really important to know, and I'll get into it in a little more detail later, that at this point in time, all we're asking for is a vote on the intent to non-renew. This is not you finding that these licenses will not be renewed. This is one of many very technical steps in the state law that is required before you can actually get to the point of non-renewing a license. So the examples tonight, you're going to see 3 licenses on the agenda. However, the agenda was published earlier, and since that time, one of those licensees has made payment, and so the wholesaler who originally reported indebtedness no longer reports that debt, and so the Cleveland liquor alcohol license will be something that the staff will ask you to remove from this list, because they would be then scheduled for renewal since that's no longer applicable. But one of the items for which a non-renewal might happen is if a wholesaler is not paid in full. If the debt extends over those dates that you see on the screen, then the wholesaler can report to the city, usually to the city clerk, that that indebtedness has lasted too long, and at that point in time, the clerk flags that license and holds that flag until the renewal time. Upon renewal, if it hasn't been taken care of, that's what you're going to see in front of you. But it is something that happens occasionally throughout the license year, and if a licensee makes good on that debt, the hold is simply lifted and the council never actually sees it. So for the 2 remaining licensees that are on that list for wholesaler debt, you would simply notify the licensee of your intent to not renew based upon the allegations presented by staff. And then what happens is the licensee is notified and they get an opportunity to ask for a hearing. That hearing is the moment at which the city would have to bring enough evidence to show that it can prove its case. It's also a moment for the licensee to come forward with evidence to refute whatever the city proves or what the city presents. There's another license on the schedule tonight that is for lacking proof of a seller's permit. This one also is something that upon renewal, there must be a seller's permit, and if there's no valid proof of seller's permit, the license cannot be issued according to state law. And so, again, something might happen during a license year in which a seller's permit is revoked by the state, by the Department of Revenue. If that occurs, licensees are given an opportunity to cure that issue by re-obtaining that seller's permit. If that happens, again, it would not come before the council because it wouldn't be an issue at renewal time. Same thing though, when the DOR notifies the clerk of a revocation of a seller's permit, that license is flagged. That flag is held until the point at which renewal time comes around. It's important to note specifically with this particular license that the council is aware, it's Stefik LLC is the licensee, and the council has heard this licensee come before the committee for numerous reasons over the last license year, so this is not news to the council. This is not information that was heard from anyone other than the applicant, and so it's information that's out there publicly, and just as a reminder that the licensee has disputed this at each point in time, so you shouldn't make any assumptions from those comments that were made in prior appearances, because if that licensee wishes to have a hearing, ultimately the proof would be on the city to actually prove that case. And so I'd ask you to, despite any prior comments you may have heard on those prior dates, to keep an open mind and make sure that the process plays out as it's supposed to under state law. So the concept of why delay this, why not seek revocation immediately for these types of things, because these are kind of weird. The council is used to, at least the Public Safety Committee is used to hearing complaints come through that allege law violations, and then taking action upon licenses if they find those violations to be true. That's the more standard process that you would hear throughout the year. The reason you don't hear about it in these cases is because these are 2 kind of particular types of issues. The way the law is worded, it doesn't say that lacking or having a debt with a wholesaler is grounds for immediate revocation. It says that that license cannot be issued. The only time we issue licenses is for July 1, and so therefore no action can be taken during the license year on those. It's the same thing with the seller's permit. Upon providing proof of a seller's permit, you get your license. But there's nothing saying that if you lose that seller's permit during the license year, you can be revoked. It's only something that happens at the renewal time. I'm left to speculate that this is because the state thought that those are things that can be cured during the license year, and it's not necessarily a reason to revoke someone's license because of those two reasons. But either way, that's just how they are worded in state law, so that's what we have to deal with. This is for the visual folks. This is what you can expect from this point on. If the council does approve sending that notice of intent to not renew to the 3 remaining licensees, licensee gets a choice. If they do not demand a hearing on the matter, then their license expires June 30th, and that's it. If they demand a hearing, we'd want to schedule that hearing. That's when you bring in the witnesses and evidence and everything else that you need. The Public Safety Committee is the one designated to handle those types of hearings. And then there's a potential for closed session as well. If the case is proven and the council votes in favor of non-renewal, it would expire June 30th. And if not, the license is renewed. You'll notice there is no option for a suspension in this. And that's because that's just not how it works. It's either renewed or not renewed. And the conclusion of law that would be drawn is already established in state law. The committee would be a finder of fact. Does the person have an indebtedness that's described in law, or does the person have a valid seller's permit? Those are the facts that the committee would have to find during that hearing. And just so everyone's aware of the difference between non-renewal and the concept of suspension or revocation, there are some differences. That, like I said, non-renewal means the license expires on June 30th. If you non-renew, nothing happens prior to June 30th. That is an established date that's going to happen. If a complaint is filed, which is the more common process the city deals with, that either suspension or revocation can take place immediately. And as I mentioned before, suspension is not an option for renewal. If a complaint's filed, you could suspend 10 to 90 days or revoke that license. So that's the basic part of it. And then just because I understand that a lot of people in the crowd might be here for other reasons, one big thing is the concept of prejudgment and due process. Because there's a property interest involved in an alcohol license, my job is to make sure that whatever the council does is something that's later on enforceable. And one of the reasons that, one of the things that makes that decision from the council enforceable is that the committee and the council keep an open mind and make sure that when that hearing happens, you're giving both sides a fair shake at it. And so any comments that the council might hear about a specific licensee tonight, I would encourage you to not consider those comments during the hearing process. The only thing that should come in for consideration by the council is evidence that comes in during the hearing, not anything that is spoken either on social media or called or emails or whatever other communication you may have received. Those are all very important constituent relation things, and it shows a lot of passion. But my job is to make sure that whatever decision the council ultimately makes can withstand an appeal. So for that reason, my advice is that you make sure that you only focus on the evidence presented at any hearing that might take place in the future. Have any questions? I'm happy to answer those from the members of the council or the public.
Thank you, Attorney Decker. I believe the clerk had a quick update before we go into questions.
Attorney Decker, I just wanted to mention late in the afternoon today, the hold for the other Class A for One Stop West Dallas Food and Liquor was also released. I just didn't have time to let you know beforehand.
Thank you.
All good. So then only the 2 licenses then will be all that the council will be asked to take
Correct.
action on tonight.
Thank you again. Are there any questions from the members of the Common Council?
Mayor Devine,
Alderwoman Novak.
if a license is not renewed due to the process going through, and they then clear whatever the issue was after, can they then reapply for a new license? Or is there a time frame?
So the time of non-renewal would be contingent upon them still not complying with whatever conditions there. So in the case of a wholesaler's debt, my opinion would be they have until June 30th to rectify it. If it's not rectified by June 30th, then they'd have to apply as a new licensee, even if they can take care of it on a later date. Same thing with the seller's permit. If it's not taken care of by June 30th, there's no way to go back and undo that. It would have to be a new application for a license.
But they could apply for that right away then, once it's taken care of. They don't have to wait till the next July 1st.
Yes, there's only a delay if a license is revoked, is my
Okay.
understanding.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the Common Council?
Mayor Devine,
Alderwoman Grisham.
Thank you. Attorney Decker, thank you for the thoughtful presentation. When you pointed out the seller's permit versus a liquor license, if we get a call from a constituent and says, okay, how does this person have a liquor license still if they have not cleared up their seller's permit? How can they remain open? Can you explain how that process is? Can you still sell alcohol because you have your license per se, but you don't have your seller's permit? Just so we clear up some confusion with anyone who may have questions why a particular establishment would be open.
Sure. So the requirement to have a seller's permit is part of Chapter 125, but the only thing it says in Chapter 125, which is the alcohol licensing chapter in state law, is that you have to show proof of a seller's permit with your application. It does not say anything about maintaining the validity of that seller's permit, doesn't say anything about what happens to that seller's permit during the license year. Under Chapter 77, that's the law that requires anyone who sells anything in the state of Wisconsin to have a seller's permit, unless there's an exception. But typically, a bar would have to have a seller's permit under that chapter. Not possessing a valid seller's permit and selling goods is technically a crime. Now, that's a law that is enforced by the Department of Revenue. And so when you ask the question, why wouldn't that be a reason to take action against the license? It's because even without a seller's permit during mid-year, that doesn't violate Chapter 125. It violates Chapter 77, the state DOR statutes. But without violating Chapter 125, there wouldn't be a basis to revoke that license mid-year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the members of the Common Council? Okay, seeing none, are there any questions on public hearing number 2 from the members of the audience? If so, please approach the microphone and give us your name and address like was done on public hearing number 1. Guess you did a good job, Attorney Decker. All right.
I'll take it.
Thank you. Then we will close public hearing number 2. Thank you. And we will move on to Section E of our agendas, which is public participation. This is where the council may receive information from members of the public during this 30-minute period. Each speaker must announce their name and address, and please sign in at the podium either before or after your comments. This is a 30-minute period of our agenda. Please. All right, I don't know where I cut out, but time limit. Each speaker must announce their name and address to the council, sign in at the podium, and limit your comments to one statement of no more than 5 minutes. We cannot take action on topics raised by the speakers and will not discuss topics with the speakers. In addition, I just want to remind everybody that my presence. Sorry about that. I want to remind everybody that my job is to preserve decorum in this meeting with or without a microphone. So we do not have applause or speaking out of turn. Please address the council and not members of the audience. And if anybody wishes to address the council under public participation, please approach the microphone.
Hi, Council. Thank you for letting us all speak here. My name is Bill Kuhn. My address is 2567 South 83rd Street, West Dallas, in the beautiful, lovely neighborhood of the McCarty Park area. So I'm also the sole founder and president of Milwaukee Sports and Social, which is the focus of Resolution 2025-0161, which is for the Public Works Committee this evening. I'm here to speak on that and hopefully, of course, answer any questions throughout the course of the night, but I also wanted to come here and use these 5 minutes to share with you what it's all about. So Milwaukee Sports and Social is a social company that's designed to bring a lot of happiness to people throughout the city of Milwaukee and surrounding areas. What we do is we put together adult social sport leagues ranging various sports, ranging from flag football to pickleball to kickball, you name it. And we host these leagues throughout with Milwaukee Parks Department. We also work with the city of Wauwatosa and very recently the village of Elm Grove. All together throughout the course of our peak season, which is May through Halloween time, we average a little over 2,000 players across the city per week in all of our sports. I'm here tonight because West Allis has a beautiful park, Liberty Heights Park, and we are very interested in developing a partnership with the city of West Allis, much like we have with the Milwaukee Parks Department, city of Wauwatosa, and Elm Grove Village, to begin renting and utilizing some of the space to bring pickleball, tennis leagues, sand volleyball leagues, as well as kickball and possibly softball leagues to the wonderful space of Liberty Heights Park. Through the proposal that you all have with you, hopefully tonight, you will see a lot about what we're about and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. But something I want to bring attention to in there is part of the proposal is something that we would love to put together with you all, assuming it's approved, called Liberty Heights Park Night, where essentially throughout the course of the day, we would host a big free outing for everyone in the city of West Allis to come together and experience all the sports and everything that we're going to be hosting and eventually putting together for the community. Our leagues really do make a true impact on the people who play in them. We've had countless stories of people expressing the improvements in their mental health, their physical health, and just overall giving people a community and a place to be a part of. So I'm incredibly passionate about it. I truly believe that we can make a big difference and a major impact on the city of West Allis in a very big positive way. And as a resident of West Allis, I want to be able to take what we're doing and bring it to the city that I've grown to love since purchasing my home here several years ago. So again, I plan on being here all night, so I'll happily answer any questions. I'll be in the back of the room for the meetings. But again, I'm Bill Kuhn, and I thank you all for giving me this opportunity and for all the work you do for the city of West Allis. So thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuhn.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to address the council under public participation?
Hi, my name is Tasha Kawap. I live at 1443 South 59th Street. I want to address the council as the president of the Liberty Heights Park Neighborhood Association and also as somebody who lives a few blocks from the park. I just want to agree with everything Bill said. I think that his proposal would be really positive for our neighborhood and for the city as a whole. I think that parks that are active and engaged are perceived better by the public in general. They're better for the people who live around the parks. It makes them places people want to be. If you see other people in your park having fun and like playing these sports, then you're more excited to go there. I also think, especially in the evenings, having positive activities happening in the park is kind of a passive surveillance, and people are going to be aware that there are people there on those evenings, and to bring more positive activity and keep some of the negative things out, it'll make the park feel safer. So I hope you will vote in support of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, my name is Andrew Wareheim. I live at 1613 South 75th Street, City Center neighborhood. I just want to voice my concerns as a citizen. We heard, obviously, the wall of protection that the law affords businesses, and city council can't act on the comments of citizens. And yet the city welcomes women who experience harassment, sexual harassment, to voice their concerns. And after hearing the wall of protection for businesses, it's not surprising that so many women are afraid to come forward. One of the hardest things I ever experienced in my life was somebody very close to me being sexually assaulted by a boss. And I'm proud to live in West Allis. I love living in West Allis. I've lived here since 2012. And it disgusts me, the things that have come to light, not just by one person, but by multiple women who have come forward.
Mr. Wareham, can you address us, please?
Yeah,
Thanks.
I sure can. And I West Allis being a place that I'm proud to live in, being proud of my community, I think this is something that we don't stand for. And I just want to voice that concern.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the council under public participation?
Would you like me to wait till I said, or you want me to go ahead? Okay. My name is Joe Becker. I live at 1463 South 96th Street. I am a member of the West Dallas West Milwaukee School Board as well, but I am coming to you as a citizen today. I was here 2 months ago. Same issue, same two neighbors. Tonight I'm going to try to concentrate on one neighbor specifically. This has been going on for 7 months now. I can't remember if I just said X. I just get so worked up. I've told this story so many times to so many people. Third day in a row, this individual stepped out as soon as we stepped outside. I stepped out to change a flat yesterday and put the plug tire back on today. This guy comes out, just intimidates. The judge at the hearing last month on the 28th, I believe it was, February 28th, we were there. The judge told him specifically, stop doing that. When they step out, you step in. She said it over and over to this guy, and he continues to harass us with no repercussions. I spent an hour yesterday talking to police, showing them video, going over the story again, going back to August to when we first reached out to the resource officer. We first reached out to our alders. They were responsive. The police have been great, responsive throughout, really great partners. I've been emailing one of the sergeants over there every few weeks, giving him updates on both of these neighbors. But we keep on being told this is not a nuisance property, neither of them. After the initial harassment started in August, it escalated in September. We had an arrest on September 14th. This individual could not be arrested on September 30th after trespassing into our house and, not into our house, beg your pardon, onto our property. He took images of the inside of our home, held his phone right up to the front window, stuck his face right in the front window. Just looking through the statute here, I'm getting ahead of myself, but there was another arrest on October 22nd for this individual. This is we got disorderly conduct charges for him, obstructing officers for him. We don't see disorderly conduct in the ordinance and are really confused by that. I got a restraining order against this individual on October 15th. There's a no contact order in place for this individual. It's been in place since December. My wife is pursuing a restraining order. We'll be going to court on March 26th for that. So just reading through 18.03 public nuisances. The following acts, omissions, places, conditions, and things are specifically declared to the public to be public nuisances. So we've got 3 that seem like slam dunks right off the bat. We've got an act of harassment as defined in section 947.013. I got a 4-year restraining order against this particularly violent individual. Again, I'm leaving the other guy out of it, but they are both involved. Disorderly conduct as defined in section 947.01 of the Wisconsin statute. Trespass to land as defined in section 943.13 of the Wisconsin statutes. That's 3, open and shut. It's on video. The ones that I think, there are 3 that also seem like they might qualify. Again, roping in the other guy. Any conspiracy to commit as defined in section 602 or attempt to commit as defined in section 939.32, any of the activities, behaviors, or conduct enumerated in paragraphs 1 to 16. Going back to the top, general pollution, waste which is prepared or stored on any premises as any manner in a manner which creates or may create a public health hazard, safety hazard, or blighting condition. Again, that's 5 of the 6. I tallied up a total of days that we've spent going to court. These are days that my wife and I both take off of work because you don't know when your case is getting called. You don't know how long you're going to be there. We just know we have to be back to make sure we can get our kids picked up. I stayed down there to deal with some other legal matters one day. But for this individual, we've been to the courthouse and spent most of the day there. September 16th, October 3rd, October 15th, October 21st, November 22nd, January 3rd, February 28th, and again.
I don't want to interrupt you if you got 30 seconds left of the 5, but I'll let you finish up.
Yep, yeah, I'm doing my best. And we will be there again. March 26th, it's our kid's birthday. And March 31st, we'll be there for the criminal case continuation for this individual. Again, this is a guy who has a 30-year criminal history. I think I may have said manslaughter last time I was here, but I believe it was reckless homicide was actually the charge that he spent 15 years in prison for. I'm just trying to understand why that's not a nuisance to the city. It might not be a nuisance for you, but for me, my daughters, you guys can take a look at it.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to address the council under public participation? All right, seeing none, we will close public participation and we will move on to section F. Our standing committees will be meeting during recess. However, there's one tweak. Public Safety and Public Works were scheduled to be in room 128, which is down the hall, but they are going to be in here due to the early voting going on for the election next month. So those are listed at the top of page 2. If you are here for a license or some order of business with the city and you're not sure which room to go to, please touch base with one of us when we break for recess and we'll make sure that you get into the right room. Thank you. Item G is the mayor's report. I just have 3 quick things on recent happenings. A few weeks ago, the city of West Allis won an award from the National Association of Industrial and Office Properties. It was called a Thrive Award, which celebrates communities, individuals, projects that dedicate to building thriving communities through real estate investments. So I just want to take a minute to thank all of our staff in the development and planning and engineering and everybody that makes a lot of the buildings you see going up happen. I see Patrick Schloss is in our audience. I don't know if anybody else is, but just, what's that? Melinda's here. Oh, there she is in back. So thanks to what you do and keeping the city growing. Also last week, I was Thursday morning at Carrie's Krispies on Beecher Street presenting a proclamation for multiple sclerosis awareness. They are selling a special orange crispy treat during the month of March to raise funding and raise awareness for MS. We have over 1 million people in this country that are living with MS. So if you are living with it, if you have loved ones living with it, or if you just want to show your support, they are orange sherbet flavors and they are on sale through the end of March. And then lastly, I just want to remind everybody that Thursday night at 7 o'clock on PBS will be the West Allis version or episode on John McGivern's Main Streets show, which will be featuring a lot of cool things that are in our community. So that does conclude the mayor's report this evening. We'll move on to item H. Are there any alderpersons' reports? All right.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Haas.
I move for approval of the minutes of our March 4th, 2025 council meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there are no changes or corrections, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We'll move on to we have no standing committee reports, so we will go right to Part K.
Yeah, Mayor Devine.
Alderman Haas.
Do any council members wish for separate action on any item in the consent agenda? Then seeing none, I move for approval of item K, our consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. There's no discussion on the motion. I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Alderpersons Turner,
Aye.
Weigel,
Aye.
Grisham,
Aye.
Grobe,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
Halverson,
Aye.
Keen,
Aye.
Novak,
Aye.
Noling, Rote,
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Haas.
I move that the council stand in recess until the conclusion of our committee meetings.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are in recess.
microphones. Yep. And for everyone.
Test.
We will call Public Works to order, and we will start out with item 23, Ordinance 2025-0028, ordinance to repeal and recreate provisions related to public health, sanitation, and animals. We are going to postpone that until April 15th, but we're going to have a discussion by Cale Decker, our attorney, Dave Wepking, our Public Works Director, and Robert Leischow, our Health Director.
Thank you,
Need a
Mr.
motion
Chair.
for that? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to go over a few details before the council decides to postpone this one. The reason we're saying postpone is because it's a pretty significant update to Chapter 7, and I think it'd be important for the council to go through it in detail and know what changes are made and make sure it's something you want to do, because there are some substantive changes that I'm recommending. And so Alders Keene and Grisham were fortunate they brought this to the council for consideration. However, obviously, it still is a very complex piece of legislation, so I'll make sure there's some time to think about it. Just as the highlights for the committee's consideration, the rewrite included some changes to the smoking and vaping laws that were not substantive, meaning they're the same rules as before, but it was really complicatedly worded and really verbose. So that's been shortened significantly and clarified. There are some substantive changes to the animal rules within this proposal. Right now, the code tries to ban animals, suggesting that anything not on the banned list is allowed. There's a lot of animals in the world, so it's a very difficult thing to do. So what the proposal does is changes so that all wild and domestic animals are banned except those that are allowed. That way the council can create a list of allowed animals rather than trying to chase things around by taxonomy. Right now, that allowed list is dogs, cats, certain small mammals, fish, certain amphibians, birds, like parrots and cockatiels. I didn't know how the council would be interested in handling reptiles, because right now the list bans certain snakes and crocodiles, but like alligators are okay. It's weird. So I just need more direction from the council on how you want to handle reptiles. I'm sure things like turtles and certain ones are probably not objectionable, but I just would need some guidance. So between now and sometime before the April 15th meeting, if you want to work with Alders Grisham and Keene on trying to define what that is, you can also send comments directly to me, and I'll work with the alders on that. The current proposal has a limit of 2 domestic animals on it. I think it was poorly worded, and I'm saying it because I'm the person who wrote it. Instead, the idea was that next version is going to go back to the current rule, which is there's only limitations on dogs and cats, 2 dogs, 4 cats. That will be in the next version that comes before the council on the 15th. It's simple. It's what everyone's already complying with, so we'll switch back to that. The fancier permit is still out there, but it is sort of used now as the general catch-all for any animals that are otherwise not allowed. So there might be various reasons why someone on the far west side has 3 acres and they want to have a sheep. I don't know. Something like that would be a situation where you could get a fancier's permit. It requires more in-depth investigation from the health department to make sure that the animal can be maintained in a way that is good for the animal and also for neighbors. Based on the request from the DNR to limit the amount of fecal chloroform that enters the storm sewer system, the 24-hour rule on fecal matter being allowed on private property would be eliminated, and instead it must be removed promptly by the owner. The example is letting your dog out the back, do their business, and come back in. The ordinance would require the owner to remove it promptly after that happens. Now, practically speaking, if this is the middle of winter, it's probably not going to bother anyone. No one's going to notice. But upon complaint, there wouldn't be a need to wait 24 hours to take any action, which is how police have to effectively enforce that law today. So by making it have to remove it promptly. It makes it enforceable if there's ever a nuisance type complaint about odors or things like that. And then also, I unintentionally omitted the prohibition for dogs at Rogers Playground. It's sort of a weird standalone provision within our code. I can add it back in if someone feels they want it in there. It was just the only park at which this law applied, and I didn't know if there was a purpose for it. Again, if that's something you want back in, just shoot me an email. I can put it back in, no problem.
Chairman Rowe, may I, Kale?
Yeah.
I believe that was a request by Alderman Stefanski.
Got it. Okay. If anyone feels that they want it back in, I can certainly add it back in, and then the council can vote on it on the 15th. Not much change to the toxic substances, which is basically lead, other than upon meeting with the health department, they might have some changes they want to recommend for that one, just because the goal is to make it consistent with state law, and we do have some provisions in this version that are not reflected in state law. And so I still have to talk to health about that before that final version comes out. I'll work with Keene and Grisham on that as well. There are some significant changes to noise and vibration rules as well. These might be the most significant of everything because we currently rely heavily upon the decibel system to determine whether there's a noise violation. It's proven to be a little cumbersome because you have to have a decibel meter on your, and you have to know how to use it, and it has to be calibrated, and it creates an issue for prosecution. There are other laws in the books talking about just simply audibility, meaning can I hear it from a certain distance? And so what the proposal has is switching to a distance-based measurement with 75 feet being the rule basically at night and 150 feet being the rule during the day. There would be exceptions for things like whatever noise needs to be created to maintain property. So you could look at a snow blower, lawnmower, weed whacker, that kind of stuff. That would not be part of this restriction as long as it's not, you're not just standing there with the weed whacker going for an hour. As long as you're using it for the purpose of maintaining property, it wouldn't count. But it makes it a lot easier to enforce by just simply having a distance measurement and can I hear the sound? So, and then it also allows police and health to do so without needing specialized equipment. Another big change was solid waste. This came before the committee several months ago. There's been some back and forth on a new version of that, and so that's what's being presented. A couple of highlights, the 75-pound weight limit for the actual city-approved receptacles would be eliminated. Instead, the weight limit is whatever is reasonable and properly dispersed within the can to make it maneuverable to the truck. I think it's a reasonable standard because the workers are going to try to move it, and if they can't move it, that's the violation. And generally the folks who do that are pretty strong people, so I think it's going to be a lot easier to enforce than them trying to guess how heavy it is. Also, bulk pickups, some changes to that. In this version, there's a suggestion of having no more than 3 what's called rigid objects, or things that basically a single person can pick up with one motion and throw into a truck. The idea is to improve efficiency, reduce the risk of injury, and reduce clutter, and also reduce any type of rodent issues that might be caused by loose bags sitting outside of the receptacle. In this version, it calls for, of those 3 objects, one of them, or all 3 of them, could theoretically be containers that are dumped and then placed back on the property. That is an issue that was discussed, and I put it in this version, but it's not something that I don't believe there's consensus on that one. If you wanted to eliminate that, there wouldn't be a problem with it because residents are allowed to have up to 2 96-gallon carts for each residential unit. So it's up to you if you believe that on top of those 2 carts, there would be the need to have additional containers allowed. And also the carts must be presented in a way it focuses on reducing issues with rats, rodents, raccoons, squirrels getting into the garbage and being attracted to that. It also improves the efficiency at which bulk pickup fees could be collected. Right now, there's a pretty cumbersome process back and forth with letters. This version just simply says that a notice is given to the person that a fee-based service was performed, gives them a certain amount of time, 30 days, to appeal that fee. And if they do so, it'll be heard by the Administrative Review Board. If they don't appeal it within 30 days, it just goes on the tax bill as a special charge. Saves a lot of time back and forth and effort from staff trying to send out invoices that don't get paid. Also, you'll see a ton of stuff getting just deleted, and that's because most of those sections will, Most of the sections were repealed because they are already covered by state law, and they're just repeating state law, which we already are authorized to enforce as agents of the DHS. But also a couple of them are just unnecessary because they're either redundant with other parts of our code or with other state laws. I'm happy to get into those if there's interest, but you should see on that version that you have which ones are being repealed. And I can, like I said, I can talk privately about that. If you ever have an issue with it, give me a call. So with that, any questions, happy to take them. Otherwise, I would just ask the item to be postponed until the April 15th meeting.
Are there any comments or questions from the committee members? Any comments or questions from the committee members? I do care. Are you looking for suggestions now?
If you have them, if you got something on your mind
Did you
right
say alligators and crocodiles are permitted or are not?
The example in our code says you can't have a crocodile. but
Cannot.
I don't see where you can't have an alligator. So it needs to be cleaned up. And then, I don't know.
And then if you could tell us about the snakes again, venomous, non-venomous, what's the?
Currently, the rule is you cannot have a venomous snake, and you can't have a constricting snake in excess of 20 pounds or 4 feet in length. So I don't know what people do when their snakes get to be 4 feet in length.
Me personally, I'd like to see no snakes in houses. Call me old-fashioned, but
this is exactly this kind of stuff as to why I'm bringing it to the council. Is
Okay,
I'd like
well,
that cleared up.
I guess no snakes would be one of them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, at this point, it's not included as one of the domestic animals or wild animals, so it wouldn't be allowed under this current version. You couldn't have any reptiles right now if it's passed as it is.
Anything else? Okay, well, we don't have to add that, we're just holding.
Just a motion to postpone would be in order.
Motion to postpone.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to hold or postpone carries. Item 24, ordinance 2025-0029, ordinance to delay effective date of mandatory lead service lateral replacements. Is there any discussion? Melinda, do you want to say anything on this, if you would?
Oh, geez. Oh, there we go. Yeah. As we, we have the letter in the packet, tried to provide a lot of detail in that it's a complicated issue. But given the fact that there was a reevaluation that resulted in some large property tax increases, and then we couple that with the special assessments that can be impactful to properties, we feel that delaying the implementation of the mandatory portion of the lead service lateral, which would add another $2,000 to people's burden for this year, is appropriate, and that it would become mandatory next year. It gives everybody kind of a time to balance out their needs and how that goes. And then next year, we would make it mandatory. And then we're also working on a way to get the road special assessments and the lead service special assessments presented at the same time to the property, so that they would have that total cost in front of them. And then the road special assessment would come due, like if we built it in '26, it would come due in '27, and then the lead we would build in '27, and it would come due in '28. So it would spread it over a little bit of time, but they would have that full impact up front. So that's why we're asking for the delay of the mandatory, to implement the mandatory portion of the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, I just had one quick question for Melinda, sorry. Melinda, and just to be clear, it's not mandatory for the rest of 25, but if you still want to participate and.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Okay.
please do. We'll be sending out more letters, encouraging people, letting them know that if you don't participate this year, it will be mandatory next year, and we may come back to you next year because we're trying to, get all the partials done first. But we recognize that it is a big impact this year, so. But we'll give everybody the information, but we really encourage everybody to participate in this program.
Awesome. Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And we'll move to item 25, Resolution 2025-0161, resolution to approve a partnership with Milwaukee Sports and Social for use of space at Liberty Heights Park for various sports leagues. And the owner or the representative is here. We pretty much heard nothing about this. You said the letter that we all received. I didn't get anything. I don't know if other people have on the Liberty Heights.
Mr. Chair, yes, I believe on the agenda there was that additional attachment.
Okay, then I missed it.
I printed it out. So it basically was the asks of the city and what they were looking for as far as bringing activity to the park. If I may.
Please.
My only question is this started out as a discussion and that it was moved to a resolution by the request of the 1st District Alders. So I'd like to give Alderman Turner an opportunity to maybe tell us what your thoughts of this is. And my biggest concern at this point is there's no contract. I know that the ask is that we follow what your contract was with Milwaukee, but that was not in the attachment. So I'm flying blindly here saying, okay, well, we're gonna let staff allocate that contract or draft up that contract with legal, but yet we as a governing or legislative body don't have any oversight.
Yes, thank you. Just to clarify, okay, so yeah, just to clarify, so there was, it was intentionally, the numbers in the contract part was redacted because it was shared with me that it would be put online. So we intentionally took that part out. I do have copies with me with the permits that we had and the various pricing ranges that we've worked out with the city of Milwaukee. I can pass that around if you need that. You want to see that?
I think that would be
But yeah, we intentionally redacted it for the sake of the internet.
Yeah. Well, my question was, and I asked Alderman Turner, what was the purpose of changing it to a resolution to move forward? Is it time of the essence type of thing?
It is time of the essence. As you probably know.
Your microphone.
As you probably know, a lot of these sports are going to be starting soon, very soon. You might not believe it, but it is. But in order for this gentleman to get things organized and in place, we have to get this done now. The other thing is that this is I already talked to people at our rec department, and they're not going to do as much as they did in the last few years. I mean, they'll have the food, the lunch program, and the pool, but use of things such as the sand volleyball, the tennis, which they have done in the past, and now that we're going to be getting in the winter or late fall, we're going to be getting our acrylic ice rink. This is a perfect opportunity for us to get another group of people to come to our park. It also helps us in terms of having people that will be used some of our facilities, the restaurants, the bars nearby, and as someone said just a few minutes ago, Active Park is a safe park, and we have made a big strides in making sure Liberty Heights is safe. I want to continue doing that and getting even better. And this is a perfect opportunity. I talked to this gentleman about what he's going to be doing. I totally agree with it, and I hope you guys do too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may just ask one more question, I'm going to ask Attorney Decker. Could you weigh in on that? As
Sure.
far as not having a contract in advance and how that impacts the agreement?
Yeah, so actually, a second ago, I just talked to the owner of the business, and he does have a draft contract that he could share. I haven't seen it yet, but I assume it contains all those typical types of provisions you would see in a contract like this. And so I'm happy to go over it, but the only issue I have is I just need direction from the council as to what sort of terms you want. I know, what would the fees be, hours, which sports are approved, are you gonna do all of them, who's gonna do the scheduling, where the priorities happen when there's conflicts in scheduling, those kinds of things would be things that we need to, I need to know if the council is in favor of those, or what numbers you're going to assign to that in order to properly evaluate the contract. So I don't know what the timing is what is the drop dead date by which he needs to know if this is approved or not, but it is a situation in which I'd be happy to talk to him and negotiate with them through the process, and as fast as I can get a version to the council. There isn't a regular meeting until April 15th, so I don't know if that's outside the window.
Yeah, so, it would be for our spring season, yes. Our spring season's slated to begin the week of May 9th, May 4th. So where we're at right now is we are selling the leagues, not at Liberty Heights Park, but my hope is to move them over to you guys if we could, particularly sand volleyball. So as it stands right now, I'm actually intentionally stunting sales to hopefully get it to the point where we know what we're doing, then we can bring it over here and, expand it a little more.
So then, based upon that, if the council's interested, I could do my best to get a contract for it, but it would take then a special meeting of the council sometime between now and April 15th. Typically, if a private party requests that, there is a cost to holding a special meeting in between. And so it'd be up to the business owner to decide if that's worth it, or up to the council to decide how that fee would be imposed, or how, if there'd be any consideration given to that fee. But that'd be the only way to do it then before the 15th. Unless you give me enough direction right now and delegation that you'd say, go ahead and sign whatever contract meets these terms. And that's a difficult thing to do and to ask for, frankly.
Correct, and that's why if we had had that copy of the Milwaukee agreement, it would have been more beneficial, because we could have at least looked at it and said, okay, we can mirror that. I don't have a problem. In fact, I think, Mr. Kuhn, this is a great idea.
Thank you.
I think it's going to be wonderful for the community. I just want to make sure that we're doing right by making sure that, our services are not being utilized as far as like DPW, setting things up for you. I don't know how you plan to work it. You did outline it quite a bit, but that's not a binding agreement.
I understand, yeah. Yeah, as far as involving DPW and setting everything up, so the two spaces that we'd be looking at primarily in this, as far as the spring season goes, which is what it was in the proposal, was the tennis court / pickleball courts. It requires literally zero prep. It's as simple as we show up, we do our thing. Sand volleyball, as simple as raking it, which we would not require DPW to do. I would be purchasing the rakes on our own, providing my staff with them. They'd have portable rakes, basically, and they would groom the fields or the court as necessary in between games. And then that's what was put in, that's why the baseball diamond portion of it was pushed to July, which is our summer season, because I realized it was going to be a little bit more of a, I guess, DPW taxing type of discussion to figure it out, because it does involve, of course, chalking the fields and grooming a much larger space than what my staff can probably handle in 15 minutes.
And just to touch base on that, as I know right now, I don't think we have any city parks. They're county parks that have baseball diamonds. So Liberty Heights is probably one of the only ones that I know. Little League is up by Reservoir, so I don't know that would have been a question. DPW doesn't currently do it.
Right.
So that's something that you would have to look to have done. And,
yes.
And your costs would need to be, you would need to cover those
Of
costs.
course, yeah. And my original thought process was that the park is geographically pretty close to West Milwaukee Park. And we rent there all the time. We play there religiously, to be honest with you. So my thought was to try to make some type of connection, work something out, and that's why, again, pushed to July, so that we could try to figure out how to maybe get that team to come over and do what they do at that park while they're also doing West Milwaukee to set up our other league that we're doing. So.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. If anyone else would like to weigh in.
So May 4th is your drop dead date?
For the spring season.
So we could look at this April 15th.
Yes, it would not be a problem for me to put out tennis or pickleball right now and go for it. But for sand volleyball, if I were to try to pull that one off, basically where we're at is, as you may know, the Liberty Heights Park has has lights on their sand volleyball court, which is fantastic because it allows an additional 2 hours of play later into the night. The court that we're currently looking to rent and utilize is non-lit. It's in Greenfield Park, which is a Milwaukee Parks Department park. For us to do lights there, it requires a whole thing with like all this setup of stuff. So I'm trying to, basically right now, I'm trying to understand what the logistics are going to be for our team. So that's why I've stunted it at a 2-hour league, 4 teams right now. Whereas if I knew that we were greenlit to come to Liberty Heights, then I would open it up and expand it to an 8-team, 64 players type of situation. Of course, if it requires us to eventually have to punt it to July, summer, and that's what the end result is, it is what it is. But I would love to be able to pull off sand volleyball and pickleball and tennis as early as May 4th, yes.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Haas.
Yeah.
Alderman Haas.
Mr. Chair, I'm comfortable with our committee approving this and granting discretion to the city attorney to handle the details of the contract. I think that we all understand, that you want to pay a reasonable fee, we want to charge a reasonable fee, make sure that there's a balance with the WAWM Recreation Department activities and your activities, and so we can keep everybody happy and do things. So I'm going to move approval and grant with the understanding that the city attorney will have discretion to handle any contract issues.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes. I'd certainly like to take a look at all this stuff. This came out as a discussion item, and I mean, we at least, for our council meetings here, we get 3 days heads up. We know what's coming Friday already. We're not even getting that with this deal. I would like to see some time myself. It looks like I'm the only one.
Probably only because I printed this, but I'm gonna give this to you. You're reading Adjournment.
One more thing. Dave Webking, do you have anything to add on this? This is, falls under Public Works.
We would just work with Attorney Decker regarding the maintenance, the coordination of the maintenance, any type of fees associated with the use, lighting fees that may be applicable. But it's a good point where you're getting more traffic into the park. The park has several upgrades now, so it's nice that you're getting more people through there, and we can just work out the fees that are associated with that, as well as the ground maintenance that may be required in the softball, baseball diamond.
Okay, thank you. Is this going to be 1 year renewal, Cale, or is it whatever you come up with?
That would be one of the things the council would have to approve. I would assume, given the discretion, I would focus on a 1-year contract and then ideally come back in the winter and present the council with a longer-term contract if it's successful.
So it will be 1 year?
At this point, I wouldn't feel comfortable negotiating anything longer than 1 year.
Would?
I would not. I would focus on this being a contract that expires at the end of 2025.
Okay.
And to add to that and to answer your question, customarily what we do when we enter into a new partnership with, for example, City of Wauwatosa, Village of Elm Grove, they like to work in language that basically states that, after X amount of weeks, which is typically, call it the spring season, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, including a rain out, that we have a preset date where we meet with a representative of that council and we basically say, like, how's it going for you guys? Here's how it's going for us. And if it's all great and everyone loves it, then it usually will then, begin setting the chain of events to add additional dates of discussion to make it a yearly program where specific nights are grandfathered in and whatnot. And it's like, so that way we can function quicker and easier on our end when we know May through July we have the court locked down and we don't have to stunt any sales, So, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Okay. It's been moved and seconded, and the end of 2025, we review.
That's what I would do in this case,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Then I'll be an aye. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Motion to adjourn? So moved. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries, we're adjourned.
Public Safety Committee is called to order. Let the record reflect that all 5 members are present. We're going to start with item 31, 2025, 1636, new operator's license bartender Class D operator application for Joseph Fuminfredo. And I probably, is that you, Joseph? Yes. Okay, could you come up to the podium, please?
Give me a minute.
No worries. Okay, thank you, and thank you for your patience. This has been
Yes.
kind of a longer meeting. Joseph, you're here tonight because there's something on your record that brings question to the council, and we want to give you an opportunity to be heard on this. It happened a very long time ago, but when we are issuing bartenders' licenses, we want to make sure that all bartenders are going to work with the police. They're not going to have any problems, underage sales, things like that. So with that being said, this was 8 years ago. I just would like to know where you're at now. Have you been bartending the whole time in between that time, or?
I do on occasion for my son's bar, the Walker Inn.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm real diligent about that these days. If they don't look 45, I'm asking for an ID, or even 50. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no point in. Give me an ID, or goodbye.
Right.
Yeah.
And we would count on you that if there were a problem, you would call the police. There would be no issue with that.
As far as calling the police?
Yeah, if there was a problem in the
No,
establishment?
none at all.
Okay.
None at all.
All right. And is this going to be a full-time position for you? You're just going to
No,
pick up
it's
some hours
not.
part-time?
It's no. Yeah, like 10, 12 hours a week.
Okay. Sounds good. I don't have any further questions. Does anybody else?
Supplement my Social Security.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I move approval.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody have a nice evening.
You too. Okay, moving right along, we have item 32, 2025, 1767, new operators license bartender Class D operator application for Moses Martinez. Mr. Martinez? Okay, Mr. Martinez, thank you for coming this evening. You heard what I had just said to the gentleman prior to you. What happens is we take a look at anything that is on your record that might directly impact the licensing activity. So with that being said, I'm looking right here, right now, that you have a current driver's license, but it looks like you had an OWI on your record.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you, was that your only OWI?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you meet all the requirements that you needed to in order to obviously get your driver's license? It was quite a long time ago.
Yes, ma'am.
Where are you going to be working?
Brass Monkey and Boar's Den.
Okay, so you're going to be working for Frank. Okay, is it to be full-time, part-time?
It's part-time, just filling in.
Okay. All right. You heard what I had said. We count on you that if there's a problem, you're going to pick up the phone, call the police.
Yes,
Going to
ma'am.
make sure you're checking IDs and doing all the things that I'm sure Frank would expect you to do
Yes,
as an
ma'am.
employee. I don't have any further questions. Anyone else? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Okay, that was a tie, and you didn't even get in on that, Kevin. Okay, there's a motion and a couple seconds. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and the next we have is item 33, 2025, 1998. New operator's license bartender Class D operator application for Melissa Suarez. Is Melissa here? Okay, Tracy, Ms. Suarez call in? Okay. Is there a motion? There was no call in on this.
I move for denial based on the record and based on non-appearance.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Item 34, 2025-1994. All these great years coming up, guys. Notification of intention not to renew certain retail alcohol licenses and provide licensees with an opportunity for a hearing. At this time, I'm going to turn this over to our attorney, Attorney Decker, to discuss it further.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you heard during the public hearing this evening, 2 of the licensees have satisfied the issues with wholesalers according to those wholesalers. So I would only ask that the committee approve sending the notice of intent to a Class B licensee, Jaegers LLC, for indebtedness to wholesaler, and then also a Class B licensee, Stefik LLC, for failure to have a seller's permit.
I move approval.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Do we have to note that those 2 are no longer going to be called in? Or does it suffice that you stated it?
Sure. So the way it would work is the notice is something that's just simply handled by the council based upon staff recommendations. They'll be issued a notice soon after this, and then if they request a hearing, the council will be notified that that request came in and a date for a hearing would be scheduled.
Okay, thank you. So there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Alderman Haas, is there any? Okay, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 36, our 2025-0291 resolution in support of legislative bills that allow immediate impoundment of vehicles used for reckless driving. Yes.
I move approval.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 37, R 2025-0151, resolution to approve shared services review study evaluating the possible creation of a joint fire department with the city of Wauwatosa.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, I'll move approval again.
Okay. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 38, 2025-2000, West Allis Senior Center Age-Friendly Data Presentation. And do we have?
Hi, I am.
Hi,
just
there
getting
you are.
settled in.
I'm looking over here.
Thank you very much, council members, for taking the time to hear this out. So over the course of November and December, our. Tell us who you are. Oh, I'm so sorry. I am Shannon Byrne. I am the Senior Center Coordinator here at the West Allis Senior Center, which is operated underneath the auspices of the Southwest Suburban Health Department. We're here to talk a little bit about the process that our age-friendly steering committee has had so far, share it with council, talk about our survey results, and talk about some next steps that we're going to have. All right, so our age-friendly community initiative is something that has been going on in the community for about a year and a half now. It is generally a 5-year process. Ours might look a little bit longer than that. It is an international movement, internationally handled by the World Health Organization in the United States. It is overseen by AARP. This is a graphic that is created by AARP in order to understand age-friendly communities. And there are places aiming to be more livable, better able to support people of all ages, where local leaders commit to improving the quality of life for the very young, the very old, and everyone in between. That is their language. And these are their 8 domains of livability, where they see that there can be improvements made in communities in order to make them more age-friendly. So what we did is that our group has been meeting together for a little over a year. We implemented a survey that was available through city marketing channels. There was paper surveys distributed throughout the community, including here at City Hall, at the library, at the health department, at the senior center, at senior housing places, as well as online advertised via Facebook, briefly on Instagram, and through the city website. The survey was implemented November 1st through mid-December of 2024, and all respondents were required to live in West Allis and be 45 years or older. We were hoping to catch the voices of those who are people considered older adults or senior citizens and people that will be soon, so that we can understand what the people who we are going to be serving also want. And this was compiled by AARP's national team. So who responded? We had 345 total respondents. The majority of them were women, the majority of them were white, the majority of them were straight, and the majority of them were in their 60s. But we did have some variety throughout the process. We also saw that 32% of the people who responded had a disability, and 18% of them considered themselves a caregiver, whether that be for a spouse, a parent, a child. As long as they identified as a caregiver, either in a formal or informal capacity, they would have answered yes to this question. So the general sentiment that we gathered from this survey is that people generally think that this is a good community to age in. Our smallest percentage of respondents were for the poor section, and the majority of people would rate this community as good or very good as a place to live and age. 72% of people found it extremely important to be able to live independently in their home as they age. It was the most drastically answered question of the whole survey. And 47% plan to stay in their current residence and never move. We actually had one written respondent who wrote, "I hope to die here." The most important factor they had when considering whether or not they would have to move out of their residence was wanting a home where they would be able to live independently as they age. And we'll actually discuss what the number 2 reason was later on. There were also some major themes that we saw through the data. If you would like a full presentation of everything that it included, I am happy to email it out to you. Just reach out to me. I'll include my email at the end. The first thing was that respondents felt that our housing stock here in West Dallas was unprepared for such a large population to be aging and continuing to live in those houses. So 75% were rated are well-maintained, safe, low-income housing poorly, so either as fair or poor in these surveys. You'll see those little asterisks. That just means that I removed some amount of respondents who responded not sure. 71% felt that there weren't enough homes that were built with things like a no-step entrance, wider doorways, and first-floor bedrooms and bathrooms. With our older housing stock and the way that things were built in order to keep them flood safe, very understandable. 55% that felt that there wasn't enough affordable housing options, such as older adult active living communities, assisted living, and communities with shared facilities or outdoor spaces. So examples of this in our community might include Heritage and the Village of Manor Park. All right, the second most common theme was job concerns. Of those that responded that they were still employed or looking for work, 62% said they wanted to continue to work as long as possible rather than retire or work for no pay. This included people in their 40s, but this also included people in their 70s. And a lot of our community features related to jobs were rated incredibly poorly, unfortunately. So you'll see there were 4 different factors that were identified here, that were surveyed here, and all of them, for all of them, poor was the most common response, and excellent was the least common. Another theme was information. 48% felt that it was hard to find information on available local volunteer opportunities. 53% felt there was not enough community information delivered in person to people who had difficulty living in their home. And 45% felt that they didn't have access to enough clearly displayed printed community information with large lettering. Now, we had an incredible strength in our community in our access to computers, to internet and Wi-Fi that we have through our public buildings. And we have I believe it's 89% of our community has access to the internet on a regular basis, but unfortunately, a lot of that, I believe 11% that does not have access to the internet is in this older population, and a lot of the city's information is only digital at this point. Another theme was financial insecurity. 89% were concerned about the cost of living increases and that may reduce their standard of living over their retirement years. I'm sure that resonates with all of us. And then this second most common reason that people were considering ever moving would be to wanting to move to an area that has a lower cost of living as a major factor they considered in whether to stay or move out of the community. Safety concerns was the final theme that we found in the data. 58% considered their personal safety or security concerns to be a major factor in their decision to stay or move out of the community, and 65% believed speed limits in our community were poorly enforced. There was a large array of different community assets that were surveyed in that one particular question. A lot of our assets were rated either moderately or very well. For example, our parks were rated very well, but there was one really outstanding outlier, and that was the enforcement of speed limits in the community. So what comes next? Our age-friendly steering committee, which Alderman Turner actually serves on, so thank you, Alderman Turner, for your time, determines our action plan priority ideas. We have chosen just 2 of these 8 domains of livability to focus on. We will be focusing over the next 5 years on creating an action plan that focuses on housing and civic participation and employment. So that would be the purple section and the mid-red section on the far right of that diagram there. We will determine strategies to improve those domains and how we will be evaluating our work. That is our next steps here. So the next steps will also include communicating this with the public. So I will be going over this data in a lot less analytical language in a few weeks on April 8th in a community conversation as part of our neighborhood and community services outreach at Aurora West Dallas Medical Center. Will also be hosted and sponsored by Aurora Healthcare, WAWMRCS, also known as the Rec Center, Era Senior Network, and Life Navigators, which is a service that serves people with disabilities in West Dallas and the larger community. If anyone on the council or if anyone that ends up seeing this recording or presentation would like to get involved, feel free to scan this QR code. You can contact me via my email that's listed here, calling the Senior Center, or if you scan that QR code, it will automatically set up an email on your phone to me that says that you want to get involved. Any questions from the council?
Shannon, thank you so much for the presentation. This data serves us very well. One thing that struck me was when we had the vote that we went to all digital format and no longer did paper, I was concerned personally. I voted in favor for it, but it left out, even if it was what we discussed, 15%. And since then, I've had calls, or I've met seniors in the community that I guess we looked at like, well, their kids are gonna help them learn this, but they count on that paper. So I think that focus, we should take a look at that a little bit deeper, maybe even as a council, and say, could it be something that we offer on a sign-up basis, whereas we didn't do that prior, you know, it was just a newsletter to everyone, because I think that's very important that all residents feel like they're involved. So that I appreciate the feedback, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Grisham.
Would anyone else like to say anything?
Thank you, Shannon. That was great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next up, these eyes. Item 39, 2025-2001, Southwest Suburban Health Department update, and we have Bob Leishow presenting. Hi, Bob. We save the best for last?
Of course, and it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you all for the time. Bob Leishow, Health Commissioner of the Southwest Suburban Health Department. So I'm just going to take us through a little journey in terms of what happened in 2024. Just give a quick snapshot and then just talk briefly about some activities that we have actually accomplished in 25 already. So one of our more significant accomplishments as we kind of grew into the Southwest Suburban Health Department was really just the creation of our new logo. And so hopefully this will work for you folks. And if you haven't seen it already, this was actually launched on our social media page. I think City of West Dallas captured it as well. Okay. And Tony says just to hit back button here. Maybe just pull it up this way. Here we go. We'll just reopen it. So that was the launch of our logo. Hopefully you're very much impressed with it. We've gotten some good traffic on it. We've had some swag actually produced, and so hopefully we'll just continue to promote it heavily in all of our communities. So now just touch on some of the programs and services that we covered, and this is really truly just a snapshot with regard to activity in 2024. So I'll touch a little bit on the various services to include the vaccines that we administer. So a big part of what we do as a health department is administer vaccines. So in 2024, we actually pushed out 981 total vaccines, and that is in comparison to 827 vaccines that were administered in 2023. And so just the short list of vaccines that we do provide to the community include flu, Hep A and B, DTaP, as well as MMR, so measles, mumps, and rubella. So right now is obviously a very critical time with all of the conversation around measles. We'll encourage everyone to just make sure they're up to date. If not, please reach out to your provider. Otherwise, you can certainly connect with the health department, and we do have vaccines in supply. And now we'll just migrate over to the right a little bit. Birth death certificates that were processed. 62,724 actual vital records certificates. That actually is in comparison to 56,626 records that were issued in 2023. So a pretty significant bump up compared to 2023. And we are attributing the bulk of the increase to the death certificates, unfortunately. But, and it's not just a one-off. It doesn't mean that many people came. We will have folks come in and they'll buy multiple copies of certificates, and so just something to kind of keep in mind. But a lot of ink went out last year, as well as just a lot of paper. Moving on, TB skin test. If you can find it on the chart there, bottom towards the right, 230 TB skin tests were administered. That's in comparison to 172 in 2023. So a fair amount of uptick in that category. Communicable disease cases managed, 973 in 2024 compared to 669. So unfortunately, we did see at least a pretty significant increase in just the sheer amount of cases that our nurses in particular have to essentially respond to throughout our jurisdiction. So just by statute, that's a big part of what we do as a health department. is respond to, and where we monitor for activity, but as well respond with case management services. Dropping down to retail food establishments licensed, on the left-hand side there are 934 licensed establishments. Again, this is throughout all of the jurisdictions that we cover. So this is West Dallas, this is Greenfield, West Milwaukee, as well as Greendale. The comparative number to 2023 is 620. So keep in mind, in 2023, we were strictly West Dallas as well as West Milwaukee. So by taking on Greenfield, we took up a pretty significant chunk of licensees. So it's been a pretty big impact on the team. Just doing our best to kind of stay on top of those. Dropping down to complaints handled by the environmental team. Where are we here? Oh, just generally, it's one that I threw in, not on the, didn't make the snapshot, but because we do spend a lot of time in that category. For nuisance complaints, which is something that we track, in 2024, there were 763 complaints that were filed. 2023, 509. So that's the makeup of rodents, pests, garbage and debris complaints that we receive, as well as animal nuisances, to include unsanitary living conditions that we all respond to. And then if we break that down a little bit further, of course, of everyone's real curiosity, rat complaints. We handled 266 in 2024 and 235 in 2023. So in large part because of the increase with our really expansion into Greenfield. That's one variable that we have to take into consideration, but otherwise too, I think just more and more people just became more comfortable calling us and just to put us on their radar as far as the need to respond to any kind of rat issues. So going back to the big board, we'll look at WIC families. So towards the center there on the left-hand side, in 2024, we had 3,291 WIC families served. And then that's in comparison to 3,103 in 2023. So that is, it really remains our single largest program within the department. Really good, bad, or indifferent, but just on a positive note, it's great that we're there to provide the service. You know, we're seeing these numbers continue to grow. It would be nice if we didn't continue to see the numbers grow, because you have to meet certain eligibility criteria in terms of income primarily. But you know, it's just on a real positive note that we've got the resources available. And with the WIC program, for those who aren't aware, we cover, again, our main jurisdictions of West Dallas, Greenfield, West Milwaukee, but we also have a satellite clinic in Cudahy. So we cover a fair amount of territory there. Car seats checked and distributed. 190 car seats were checked and distributed in 2024, compared to 196 in 2023. Vision screenings, which is a service that continues to be provided through the health department. We work closely with the school district to implement those services, as well as parochial schools. In 2024, there were 2,248 screenings done, compared to 2,479 in 2023. And so kiddos in K4 through 5, first grade, third grade, as well as fifth grade, all get screened by us. So that's a lot of screening going on. It keeps our technicians very, very busy. Vital records, again, we touched on. Social connections, community outreach events, We had over 900 individuals reached through a variety of different services, to include things that we've talked about in past, community-based paint and sip events like at the library, family cooking classes that we continue to host, the West Dallas Hope Walk, which was earlier in 2024, was a really wonderful success. Great turnout, to the point where we are actively looking to expand that, and actually working with Milwaukee County right now to have something similar in Greenfield Park. So stay tuned for that. And then as well, in terms of the numbers, the family bowling night, really well attended. And then you shouldn't be surprised, actually over the Christmas holiday, we had a family gingerbread competition. So we actually made kits, gingerbread kits, available to families. And we had wonderful turnout, and it actually turned into a really good, engaging conversation in the community, where one lucky family was essentially identified as a winner. And so we're, in all likelihood, going to do that again, just because it was so well received, and it just really was a good way to engage the community. Facebook posts. If you're not a fan or don't currently like or follow the Southwest Suburban Health Department, please do. It is a great way for us to continue to get the word out and spread messaging and raise awareness. 235,000 people were reached throughout our posts in 2024. And then two, with regard to fentanyl test strips, we continue to restock our vending machines. So we have vending machines, two of which are here in West Dallas, and then we also coordinate or handle the ones in Greenfield as well. And so a lot of traffic at the various vending machines. So we're just very pleased that we have those in place. Okay, moving on. Moving on to 2025, really for the first quarter, we've been hitting hard again with more community outreach activity. We had a successful winter formal with the Senior Center. Had a fun time there. Didn't see me on the dance floor, but I actually helped to kind of serve some food, but maybe next year I'll get on the dance floor. We've held a couple cooking classes for the 55-plus community, very well attended. Probably about a month and a half ago, we had a community school-based Narcan training that was essentially facilitated by two of our staff, one nurse and one health educator. We had essentially trained right around 200 faculty and staff in the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District. The story coming out of that, it's a feel-good story, but it also speaks to just generally the importance of what we do. Literally the day after that training was provided, there was an overdose incident. And fortunately, the faculty who was present on site, just because they went through the training, felt comfortable enough to act. And so this is a great situation where we have a very warm success story. And really, it's in large part just because of the timing when we were in there and the unfortunate, situation that happened. And it just kind of speaks to the importance of what we do as a health department and continuing to get ourselves out in the community. As well, we've provided community epinephrine training and then ongoing family cooking classes. Dropping down, we did get awards from the housing department, CDBG awards, one for Healthy Homes Project, as well as for rodent abatement. So this is, I think, now our third year of rodent abatement funds. This is a first year for Healthy Homes project, and the idea behind that is that we will utilize really a mix of staff, including our health educators, our social worker, and environmentalists, to really ideally be welcomed into homes to really just do some form of a very simple environmental scan and look for areas where there might need to be some improvement. So they'll look for mold, they'll look for structural issues, they'll look for areas that might be lead contaminated as well. The unfortunate concern with regard to the CDBG funds right now, for those who are not aware, is those are federal funds. I believe there was some conversation in other committee tonight about the concerns of those funds not making their way through the feds. And so even though we've got our awards, we just have not been able to really proceed to implement anything until we know more so about the stability of those funds. Moving down, the department continues to provide occupational health services to a number of different departments in the city, so primarily via screening, hearing screening. So we've been hitting it hard and heavy on that front. I think we're done with those at this point for the year. And then actually with regard to WIC, again, the numbers continue to impress. The numbers as far as nearly 5,000 participants already being provided services through the WIC program. One additional significant initiative that the West Dallas Health Department had undergone years ago was essentially Public Health Accreditation Board accreditation. And so West Dallas has been an accredited health department, and we continued in that vein, and we're due for our reaccreditation in 2024. So we did submit all of the evidence, which was a very time-consuming process, and that has then in turn resulted in us having to provide additional information back to the accreditation agency, and so we're literally in the process right now of going through our reaccreditation, but that would be as the West Dallas Health Department. It's a retrospective accreditation. Assuming we do get reaccredited, then the deeper conversation will have to be had about really the Southwest Suburban Health Department wanting to go through this accreditation process. So stay tuned for that. It's a heavy lift. In other news, we successfully updated our strategic plan. So what that essentially boils down to is we incorporated the West Dallas Health Department strategic plan with the Greenfield strategic plan. So that has been essentially adopted by the Board of Health. We continue our efforts with multi-department, with a number of different departments to address overdoses, in particular opioid overdoses. We have funding for what's called an opioid fatality review team. So that is essentially a makeup of us as well as police department, fire, MIH in particular, a number of different healthcare institutions, all coming to the table in a closed-door session and reviewing deaths that are essentially tied to opioid overdoses. And then we talk about what we as a community can do better to, potentially respond to those types of scenarios. So a lot of good recommendations and strategies have come out of that discussion. Reference to West Milwaukee. West Milwaukee is currently in a contract arrangement with Southwest Suburban. They have expressed interest in consolidation, and so City Attorney Kale and I have met with the Village of West Milwaukee leadership, and so that conversation is moving forward. And so we are, I believe, on track to have some demonstrated decision, I mean, really demonstrated, decisions here made within the next few weeks. And West Milwaukee is essentially per the amendment that West Alice and Greenfield signed off on. They have until June 30th to ultimately decide if they want to come into consolidation or if they want to remain as a member. So it's encouraging that they've opened that conversation. And then last but not least, the federal implications to the health department, just as a note, very similar to the CDBG funds. Puts us in a little bit of a, I don't want to say tenuous situation, but definitely because of the grant funds we have that's tied to the CDC largely. We haven't been told to stop or cease, but I think we're all aware of the chatter that's going on at the federal level about the potential concerns we have with regard to the funding being pulled or somehow curtailed. Because we have not been told to essentially, pull things back. Really, my approach into the team and in discussion with the board is it's business as usual, and we'll continue to work in that manner until we are informed otherwise. And that's it. That is my update.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you to you and the entire team. I have one question for you that you didn't talk about, and I think it was at the last update. Is that when the monument sign was installed? How long have we had that up outside of the?
So the new sign?
Yes.
Yeah, I unfortunately didn't capture that. That is brand new as of like 2 weeks ago, actually.
Okay,
Yep.
and it's almost as bright, if not brighter, than the lights of Beecher Street.
Oh, really?
So I didn't
Okay.
know that. Is
I haven't
there
been
a
there at
way,
night, so-
is there a sleep menu on it? Does it go to sleep at night?
We
What-
can look into that.
Okay.
Are there concerns with that? Okay.
It's very illuminated.
Okay.
So it's substantial. No one's
Good-
gonna miss it.
Good to know. Yeah, I haven't.
But I didn't know if there's like standard messaging, you roll messages, because the message that was there was just bright and it seemed like it was just one message.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, initially we had some
Nice sign,
complications.
but bright.
Initially, we just had some complications with just the electrical side of
Okay.
things. I know they've been back a couple times to fix it. But yeah, it's fully illuminated,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'll talk with the powers that be, just to see what we might be able to do to tame it down a little bit.
super, that would be wonderful. I have nothing more. Do any of the other members have anything to say? All right, well, thank you very much.
Sure. Certainly,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, that looks like our last item. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Good evening. We'll call the Common Council back to order, and I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Alderpersons Turner?
Here.
Weigel?
Here.
Grisham? Here. Grobe? Here. Haas?
Here.
Helverson?
Here.
Keen? Here. Novak? Here. Noling? Here. Rote?
Here.
10 present.
We have a quorum. Yay. We will begin with the Administration Committee, and I will ask the clerk to read out that report.
The Administration Committee recommends adoption of item 22 using the amended contract.
Mayor Devine, I move in accordance with the committee report.
Thank you, Alderman Weigel. Is there any discussion? If not, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Alderpersons Turner?
Aye.
Weigel?
Aye.
Grisham?
AI.
Grove?
Aye.
Haas?
Aye.
Helverson?
Aye.
Keen?
A.
Novak?
Aye.
Noling?
A.
Rote?
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 opposed.
Is that 10-0 for Lime? I thought Alderman Road indicated. No, this was item 22. With everyone's sarcastic answer. No, because there's no vote on the. You can change your vote if you want. Just say Road. Road, I don't know. Okay, so 9-1.
Okay, so nine in
It's all
favor,
good.
0, I'm sorry, 9 in favor, 1 opposed.
Motion carries. That was the hardest one item committee report I've had. All right, next up is the Public Works Committee. And I will ask the clerk to read out that report.
The Public Works Committee recommends postponing of item number 23 until the April 15th meeting, passing of item 24, and adoption of item 25, granting the city attorney the ability to draft the terms of the contract on a 1-year term.
Thank you.
Mayor Devine, I move in accordance of the committee report.
Thank you, Alderman Road. Is there any discussion? If not, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Alderpersons Turner.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Grisham.
Aye.
Grobe.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Helverson.
Aye.
Keen.
Aye.
Novak.
Aye.
Noling.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries. Thank you. And then we will do the Economic Development Committee.
I will read out item number 30 separately.
Okay.
The Economic Development Committee recommends passing of item 26, adoption of 27, 28, and 29.
Mayor Devine, I move in accordance with the committee report.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Is there any discussion? If not, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on items 26 through 29.
Alderpersons Turner.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Grisham.
Aye.
Grobe.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Halverson.
Aye.
Keen.
Aye.
Novak.
Aye.
Noling.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries. Now we have item 30.
Correct. Item number 30, granting as amended with the amendment of conducting a traffic study to be done with the approval of the city engineer.
There should be a second one on there that it's right turn only.
To work with engineering on.
Oh, I thought we had it okay, that's fine, sorry.
You're staying it to the point. So
Okay.
it's for a traffic study to be conducted and to work with engineering for directed traffic.
For directed traffic, okay. Thank you. Do you want me to reread it, or are we okay?
No, we're
I
okay.
think we're
Okay.
good.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to move approval of it, Dana?
I move approval of item 30 from the committee report.
Thank you.
Mayor Devine, may I ask a question?
You may.
Okay, do we pay for that traffic study?
No.
No. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. If not, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Alderpersons Turner.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Grisham.
Aye.
Grobe.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Halverson.
Aye.
Keen.
Aye.
Novak.
No.
Noling.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
9 in favor, 1 opposed.
Okay, item 30 is approved. Motion carries. And next up is the Public Safety Committee. No rush.
All right, the Public Safety Committee recommends granting of item 31 and 32, denial of item 33 based on police record and failure to appear, approval of item 34, sending notice of non-renewal to Class B license holders Jaegers LLC and Stefik LLC, holding of item 35 until the April 15th meeting, and adoption of items 36 and 37.
Mayor Devine, I move for approval of the Public Safety Committee report.
Thank you very much, Alderwoman Grisham. Is there any discussion? I would just like to add that, assuming item 36 will pass, we will be sending a copy of that resolution to our state legislative delegation, so they're aware of our opinions. If there's no other discussion, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Alderpersons Turner.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Grisham.
Aye.
Grow.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Helverson.
Aye.
Keen.
Aye.
Novak.
Aye.
Noling.
Aye.
Roach.
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Haas.
I move that we adjourn until our next scheduled meeting, Tuesday, April 15th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.